Okay, folks, welcome back to the Backstage Cowboys podcast. This is Claude Vien. This time, I drove up to Sorel Tracy to meet up with my old buddy with whom I've been touring for years, and I haven't seen in a few years, actually, my good friend Eric Massicotte. And would you believe I had to drive out here in a rented car? Yeah, my old Mazda CX-7 tires were starting to make bubbles in the back. I'm a bit negligent on that, so I just took it to my mechanic, rented a car, and came out here and to see my friend who has the kindness of having me in his beautiful country house. So let's just do the opening act music thing and get on with the interview. Okay, guys, take it away. Eric, my friend.
Yes.
How's it going, man?
Very good. Yourself?
Oh, me? I'm in heaven.
All right, that's good.
I'm in heaven just to be here, just to see you.
Well, I'm happy to see you again. It's been such a long time.
It has.
And at least now you can't say that it doesn't exist, because where I used to live before, you said Saint-Robert. No, it doesn't exist.
Yeah, I had forgotten about that. Every time he tells me I live in Saint-Robert, what's Saint-Robert? It doesn't exist.
It wasn't on the GPS.
It's not on the map, man. No, this is beautiful. I'm so glad I had the occasion to come and see this, and thank you for having me in your beautiful house. This is really great.
It's the first time of many more, I hope.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny because when I drove up in the driveway and I saw you coming, it was like as if we had never parted.
Yeah, well, it's usually I find it's like that often, and like we're talking showbiz, right? But it's often like that. I find you meet people, you get close to them, you don't see them for like years and years, and then after that you get on another gig or you see them somewhere else, and it's like, time stopped. But I guess that's how it is. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, we're lucky enough you haven't changed. It's all good. Hey, Eric, I absolutely wanted to get you on this podcast because from years of touring with you, I've heard so many stories, and I realize we can't cram all that up into one episode.
Okay.
But we'll do what we can. Yeah. We'll see if we can get the hot, juicy stuff out first.
We'll try. See if I remember.
Yeah. Let's start with today. So what's your job today? What do you do?
Today, I consider that I have like two jobs. One that would take about, I would say, 80% of my time. The other one about 20%. Both in sound. I do they call it A1 now. If I want to explain it to it, it's like the head audio.
I love that. I love that expression. A1. What's your job?
A1. Well,
you're at the top of the classifieds.
When I get to security, sometimes that's what they say. A1. Oh, okay. I guess you're up there, right?
Yeah.
A1.
You're the big guy.
Yeah. It's audio senior, audio first, or whatever. I do the hands-on, the broadcast sound for a mini sports event. In the mobile field, so that's always live sound, live to TV. It's hardly ever taped. And the other part is I still do some variety stuff for different shows here in Quebec mostly. And in the variety field, my expertise is often the intercom specialist. I get to do more intercom now in the sports events because it gets more and more complicated, and I always enjoyed it, which is funny because intercom for sound guys is usually the forgotten cousin you don't want to talk to. But I always enjoy doing it, so I guess I opened up the field for that. But that's basically what I do is the sound for the broadcast of sports events on different channels and variety shows, the intercom. Yeah.
All right. Hey, so actually what you're doing now, if we're talking about sound for live broadcasts, which means that I'm sitting at home, I'm watching a football game, and what I hear, you're the guy sending that signal to me.
Exactly.
You're mixing it and you're broadcasting
it. Like one of the field I do most, being from Canada, is hockey.
Of course. So that means you're in the hot seat, really.
So the expression "follow the puck" never has been so true to me, because there's a lot of microphones on an ice rink. There's 10. 10 mics that are hung up on the windows, which sometimes when this is a special announcement to everybody. If you're at a rink and you like banging on the windows, just don't do it, okay? First of all, the players don't care. Second of all, they don't hear you. But everybody at TV are just annoyed because all you hear is dang, 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 dang on the air. But these microphones pick up the action on the ice. Then you have the guys who describe the game, the guy who colors the game, the reporter that does the interviews, the music going to commercials, coming back to commercials, the replays that we do, the special what packages that they have done before. Everything is mixed, and a lot of it is it's live. So during the game, then I bring up the microphones that are closer to the players, being hockey, being in curling, being in whatever.
And that's how we're able to hear what the referee says.
The referee has a mic on him.
Oh, okay.
And but it's off, right? Obviously.
Yeah.
And when the referee talks, then I will bring up that microphone up just for that period of time. Then you'll hear it. But yeah, exactly.
You don't have a big turnaround time. I mean, you got to be on the ball all the time to see who's talking at what time and. You go there. Basically, in unusual days, I will go in the truck around, like, let's say 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock in the morning, do the setup. The A2s, which are the assistants, they go out on the field. They put the mics up. They put, like the headsets up, or the drops that we call them in the locker rooms or whatever, where we're going to have interviews. Then we fax them, which means we test everything up. They sit in position, and then we just test everything audio-wise. And then after that, it's a quick lunch, and then, usually we're doing a lot of pre-producing stuff, a lot of commercial, right? Sports involves a lot of sponsors and commercials and whatever. So there's a lot of things that are people don't really realize, but let's say you have like a publicity for, like, let's say a next game. Well, the next game will involve let's say, I don't know, some sort of scenic of the new city where the game will be. That will come out of the tape room. Then they'll have somebody putting up the graphics on the TV, the things that's written that you'll see, and then we'll have a music. So in order to simplify during the live sport event, then we'll package that during, before the game starts. So, cue the scenic, cue the guy who'll do the overdub, and then cue the music. Everything is taped, and that's called a package. And that package will later on during the live show be played, where I don't have to, worry about which music I'm going to play. It's already done. So there's a lot of pre-production that we do before the game, and then obviously once the game starts, we're on live. That's done right before the game.
That's done sometimes just before lunch, sometimes coming back from lunch, depending on how the events were. But the thing that's stressful about it is there's a lot of time that we'll be setting up stuff. Problems might occur and stuff like that, and then you would have some, if you have a buzz or if you have a problem or whatever, then you got to figure it out. Then you only have a certain amount of time to do it, because there is a live game at night.
So Eric just walked away from the mic now because there's something on the stove and it's going bloom, 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 bloom. I think he's burning water or something.
Yeah, we gotta start supper, right? Okay.
That's the fun about being in a real environment, right? This is not controlled. Whatever happens. I've said it before. I don't know. Maybe a plane will land on your land in the back there. You got enough room, right?
There's an airport there close by anyway.
Wow. What do they need an airport for? I mean, you got kilometers of land in the back there.
Yeah, you could do it, yeah.
Okay, so back to Live sports. So, okay, so you're the guy sitting in the trailer and mixing all of this stuff and putting it all together. One thing that I always wondered, like sometimes you have something that appears at the bottom of your screen, like this little orange bar with the name of the players and a bit of history and all that, and then you hear like a swoosh sound coming in and going out. I heard something about that before.
Good old spot box, that's called, you know. Yeah,
okay,
exactly.
So what's that all about?
That's, well, you know, there's this company that, like, there's a lot of things, but the main company that makes the replay is EVS. It's called EVS. I think it's from Belgium or something like that. I'm not a video guy myself, but they're like a computer-based drive that you could record all kinds of sources and stuff like that. So nowadays, there's a lot of the replays, the slow-mos, the super slow-mo and stuff like that, and the switchers, which, you know, the ones who actually cut the cameras, you know, take 5.5, take 3.3, whatever. They also have this I guess they have the access to a part of that EVS. So sometimes when they cut between a camera to another one, or from a replay to back to a camera, they have this effect, whether it's the team logo or the TV station's logo or whatever, and then they call it the effects, and then there is sound on it. Okay. So those things, to me, on the console, they're always up. So if they hit the button and they do that transition, they call the transition between, then the swish sound will come up. The other one, talking about the things that are written, we call it either the bug or the duet, which are like their brand name. It's like calling a tissue a Kleenex, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, but I don't know what the character generator, I guess you would say. They also have sometimes, depending on the station, depending on the company or whatever they do, they have some sound to it. So those two things also I have up on the console all the time, except that with technology being what it is now, you can... I have GPIs, which are like a general purpose input output. My console fader will be hooked up to the guy who is actually switching the cameras. So whenever he'll put on the air that character generator, then it will open up my fader. So then the sound will come up, and then you'll hear the swish sound that it makes or whatever. And then once that's off the air, that you don't see it on the TV anymore, it mutes my channel. So then the guy could play whatever, or he could rearrange his stuff. I don't have to worry about, the fader is still up.
So your fader's remote controlled.
Some of them, they are. I could a lot of on races, car races, or the Red Bull Crashed Ice, for example. There's a lot when the cut to the cameras are like, you know, one after the other, fast following a car, whatever. And on cameras, we have the opportunity to put a microphone. So what happened often is then we'll have those microphones on those cameras being open as he switches. So as soon as he switched to a camera to follow the car, obviously that's the sound you want to have.
Okay, that's why in a car race we always hear the sound of the car coming around the right corner.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I always wondered about those. I figured, okay, so there's cameras all over the track. I mean, how do you know which one...
You follow,
So the mic is kind of synchronized with whatever's on the air.
Yeah.
So on the air, live, I gotta ask the question that I ask to anybody doing live: bloopers, glitches, fuck ups.
Yeah.
Tell me about those.
The one of the things you would get, which is funny, is we're live, we're playing hockey, and obviously, you know, the F-bomb could come often. That's how they call it. I'm lucky. I work in Quebec, and I work for like a French station, which you know, the word fuck we could say on air, even on radio, doesn't matter, right? And so if I work for that station, I don't worry about it, especially if there's like a fight or a little, you know, scrap behind the goal or something like that after the whistle is blown or whatever. I like to put up those effects mic up, you know, because, you know, you're part, it's like you're there, you know, you want to get that sound. Basically, what I like is what you see is what you hear, you know, so that's what I try. But when you do like an American, especially an American network or an English network, you got to be careful with those those sounds and those fucks that the players would say. But at the same time, sometimes you'll get the producer saying, "Hey, watch those things," and you're like, "How the hell do you want me to know about that?" It happened. I didn't know. It's either you get a memo in the locker room saying, "Hey, guys, don't swear," but it doesn't work that way. Story that a friend of mine, he does in Ottawa. He's got all this mic open in the middle of the ice, and then somebody has a slap shot, and the poor guy gets it on the ankle or something like that, and all you hear is like fuck as he's going to the bench, and then he turned off the mic, but then what else?
Too late, man.
Yeah, so
the
when you
first
play,
3 ones came up on the air.
So you obviously that replay will be sound off.
And how about mistakes? Like.
Mistakes? Oh, I've done.
Does that happen? Does it ever happen? Like, okay,
the wrong
you're on
music?
the air and there's there's just nothing coming out, or does that ever happen?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Live shows. There's mistakes. Obviously, I've made some. There's technical difficulties. A mic cutting out. There's nothing you could do about it. You get one chance to do a player interview. Yeah. Once they do the with the warm ups, and then they're on the
there
bench
for a few seconds.
That's it. If you missed it, too bad. They're gone. So sometimes it happened. The mic last week or 2 weeks ago, which I balled out of this one. I'm in Pittsburgh. We have this guy over the bench. We're actually not in. We're live with the studio. There's a lot of pre-game shows that like in the studio, but they come in remote to do little hits with people that are already up in the in the field or whatever they are. So I got this guy who's on the bench, and I guess he's kind of talking to production about the order of what he's going to talk about and the visual we're going to be playing. We're going to talk about this player, this player, this player. So the guys at tape has to know which order the visual of the example has to play. So the producer talks to him, and then obviously something's changed in the order of the visual. So the guy puts down his mic. So he goes, "Oh, I'm going to put down my mic and I'll write it down." So because he did that, he moved the mic, and I heard like a sound, and then I lost the mic. Oh. So there's no sound, and then we're up on the air like in about 30 seconds. So then all I did is like, okay, I have no mic. There's nothing I could do. So I actually called we have talkies with the A2s, and one of the A2s was not too far, and he had the wireless microphone from the other host. So I'm like, okay, can you run? And then the guy just ran, and then he gave the mic. And then I think it was like 10 seconds before the air. And then the guy looks all cool. Hey, I'm back on the air. And then, but then the guy was just like, he had no mic 10 seconds prior to that. And said, you never know, but the show must go on.
I'm sure there's a lot of things in extremis that happens like that.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah. Damn, I had a question. I forgot it.
It's all right.
That happens all the time, right? We're talking about ClearCom. Well, I say ClearCom, but I mean, all
Kleenex and a tissue.
Yeah, Kleenex and a tissue. There you go. Exactly. A frigidaire. Because I know that when we were touring together, you were pretty much a specialist of that. Com. I mean, com is people communicating with each other.
Yeah.
Within. So, you know what? I'm going to let you elaborate on that because I know it's come to a point where it's very complex.
Yeah.
And I'm just starting, from my job at AVL, I'm just starting to get into that world and seeing how difficult it can be to manage, like, maybe 120 people trying to communicate to each other, and certain people have to have priority and whatever. I'm going to let you tell me about all that.
Okay, well, first of all, when ClearCom, or actually communications, comms, let's just call it comms, and it was... like I said, it's always been like even when I started way back at Solo Tech, just being a PA tech and stuff like that. People like setting up wireless. People like setting up PA systems, and then you're talking about consoles, but then we have to do the intercom, and it was always a lot of time. it's not the sound department's mostly used facilities, but then light people like it because they talk to follow spots all the time. Production has to talk on it. So, but because it has an XLR, I guess it always was into the sound.
Well, there's been an ongoing argument. Every time I got to a gig, I remember the sound guys handing all the comms over to us, the light guys, because we're the ones using it.
Yeah,
most of the
most of the time,
and we're the ones who have no fucking clue how they work, right?
right?
So how we're gonna have to shovel it back to the sound guys who just look at us with a little smile and say, "Well, yeah."
It's part of the sound because it makes sounds, but I understand it's funny. But the thing is, like what I wanted to say is just it's funny because I find it's the backbone of any shows. If you're a live show. Doing stage, they're the ones who are gonna have like, especially the cues, go in cue, turn on the light, black out this. You're doing a TV show, you got to talk to, there's a lot of stuff going on. There's a lot of people that are describing, sports events or whatever. They're not encyclopedias, there are people talking to them saying, oh, say this and say that. Oh, by the way, he scored 35 goals. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
like prompters, but
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So Com actually holds all these shows together. If you have a TV show going on, you have a problem with sound, right? You could always put a character and saying, we're having sound difficulties, please stand by.
Yeah.
If you're having video problems, you have no more image, you could always have a microphone and a guy saying, we're having video problems, please stand by. If you're having comm problems, you have no show. So it's always been, the backbone of all that. So before, way back, it used to be just, it started with, theater. And it was just basically a lot of telephone engineers that brought this system to the live application, saying, oh, we can have a two-way conversation on one wire, and we're just gonna, because they don't want to make complex stuff. You could build, I could give everybody a microphone, everybody a pair of headphones, everybody a console, and then we could build a system that we could talk to, but it's complicated. So they invented, it started with like one wire, called a party line. Call it a party line because everybody was on it. So, and it was, unless you have something to say, just shut the fuck up because somebody else more important will talk. And then it became, how about if we make, two party lines, one for sound, one for light, and then and so on and so on. And then the matrices, being the digital world that we're getting into, now that I could have matrices, which is like X amount of inputs versus X amount of outputs, and whatever I program, I could, make somebody talk to one guy or another, or priority this, priority that. So that's how the complexity of it became. But you gotta always keep in mind that, I always bring it back to the basics. Like, do you really need to talk to so many people? And the more in comms that I find, the more you keep it less complicated, the more, if something breaks or something happens, it's easy for you to go and troubleshoot and stuff. But
from a user point of view,
an
amateur, a guy who doesn't know how this works, and I have an anecdote on that, by the way. I remember one time I was doing a setup. It's Bell Center. I don't remember what it was. It was a private party, and I was starting. And I was, passing cable, hooking up lights and everything. And I was done doing what I needed to do. And I go up to the technical director and said, I'm done. Well, he says, you want to keep on working? I said, sure. He says, okay. He says, you're going to go, well, wire up all the clear comms and make sure they're working and they don't buzz. So I wire up all the clear comms, which were clear comms at the time. and then I grab all of them, and there was this one station at a follow spot that was buzzing. So I figured, oh, cool, I have a problem to solve. So I go up to the main unit, which is at FOH station, and I look on the unit, and I see there's an EQ there.
But it's not.
It's not, of course, but I think it's an EQ, right?
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, what it really is that like each channel
Yeah.
Each line you can put it on a different channel.
You got
right?
four
I didn't know
channels,
that.
yeah.
I thought it was an EQ, and I figured, well, the buzz must be around such and such frequency. Those are from my days that I thought I was a sound man. So I just grabbed that frequency, which in my head is a frequency.
Yeah.
I pull that down. I go back to the headset. It's not buzzing anymore.
No.
I fixed it.
Yeah.
Shit. No, I shut it off.
That guy was alone, right?
So anyway, from a user point of view, my question is, why is it that the stupidest guy online with everybody, who's always got garbage to say, who's always talking for nothing and telling jokes and fooling around, why is it that he's coming through loud and clear, and the guy calling the shots, we can hardly hear him?
That's we'll talk to Murphy about that. I think he invented a law about that, right? I have an anecdote. It's funny because one time I get a call here at home, and somebody was just asking me, goes, hey, you know that new system that we have, and blah blah blah, and because basically on bell packs, you go to one bell pack, you plug it in, there's an output, you call it DZ chain, you go to the next one and the next one and the next one, and obviously if you unplug the first one, everybody, it's like Christmas lights when you unplug, that it's serious. So
one burns out, the rest of
exactly,
the rest is gone.
the old ones. But so there was this system, digital system with 2 channels, 1 wire, and there were all daisy chains for certain groups of people that were working in the show. Like a department. I just don't want to, make it too
not too specific.
Exactly. So, but that's true. And then somebody asks me, is there a way for the guy, because if you have one wire, we know we're in the digital world. So there's 1 wire, 2 channels. You get a bell pack. You get channel A, channel B. So if you don't want to listen to channel B, you just bring down the volume, right? Yeah. But then the guy goes, is there a way that we can make a certain people on that line not being able to turn up channel B? And I'm like, okay, well, it's doable, but not the way that we're wiring it. Just want to make it simple. We have to redo the whole wiring system, make Ys, and just not plug anything in the B channel or whatever. And but then it was very complicated, and I'm saying, why would you want? Well, he goes, this guy that who's in charge doesn't want certain people in the show that he's bitching about them. So I'm like, are you serious? So you're gonna rechange? So how about you tell the guy for 2 hours not to bitch, and then the life will be easy. But then it's like, this is like I've had requests to make, can you make a 2-channel Clearcom, have 3, and then you do miracles, and if we put something this way and then we force something that way, but to do like the unbitch switch, and then I never heard about that. So but that was like a funny request.
Yeah, and something else I want to put out there. While I got a microphone in my hands and I'm talking to a lot of people at the same time, I just want to send out this message. The volume on your belt pack does not control your mic.
Yeah, that's right.
I had to say it.
Yeah, I have a little cartoon that like in comms, everybody listens to comms. There's speakers everywhere. Everybody's got a mic. So I have this little cartoon. I think it's Bert and Ernie that I like to print sometimes. And I think it's Ernie telling Bert, who's got a face and he's got headsets on, and it says, you can never go back once the talk switch is on. I mean, like, he said something, that idiot, blah, 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 and then the idiot is listening. So I always say, once you put an intercom on, just, it's like a billboard. Everybody's seeing you or whatever. So,
yeah, we had a code for client on com.
Yeah, over a scan? Is that it?
No, we just said COC. Client
On
on
com.
com.
Okay.
So if the client is on com, be careful, guys.
Yeah. So me, we used to say somebody's starting to talk, blah blah blah, and I would get on the air and say, "Oh, people, there's some overscan going on here. There's overscan. So saying, somebody's listening that you don't want to. So just be careful out there.
And if the new guy didn't know the code, well, tough.
Well, you'll learn.
He'll learn.
Yeah,
quick
exactly.
Enough if he keeps his job. Hey, let's go back to. Normally, I start the other way around, or actually, no, I say that on every episode. I do not have an order. I don't do things orderly. I don't have any discipline whatsoever. I just do whatever I want. I'd like to go back to the early days.
Yeah.
There's things I want to talk about. I want to talk about your touring days. I know that when we were working together, you talked about the Tragically Hip and all that. But I'd like to start by going back even further and tell me, before you started working up till the day where you were into this this line of work, how did that happen? What guided you to this? And how did you start?
I started as...
And thanks for the glass of wine.
No problem. It's like tout le monde en parle here. We're drinking much. I started, obviously, it's funny because recently I did some DJing for Jean-Marc Parent.
I see you on TV all the time.
I came back with the DJing stuff, but that's how I started. I mean, me and my buddy, way back in Burlington, Ontario, I used to did my high school. We picked up turntables and we went to clubs, and then one of those clubs was it was called in Burlington. It's called Clancy's Live, and then
we're talking about Burlington,
Ontario. Yeah.
Okay.
And then because I was like part of the the staff, I was doing like a little DJ gig for the Sundays or something like that. But on a Saturday, they used to have bands come in, and I remember that we had Gowan back in the day, and Rick Emmett from Triumph. And so they needed some roadies, just people to help with...
really?
Yeah.
I thought that all started at Solotech.
No.
It's the other way around.
That's the other way around.
Wow.
Yeah, it was... they needed roadies, so
I just picked you up like that.
They asked, can you unload the truck? Can you push this
put that there.
Put that there, exactly. Talking about like the early days, like the first par that had like a yoke and it went up and down, and that's it. And so they had 6 of them, and then that was the end of the world. And so I did that, and I really enjoyed. I kind of say, this is cool. This is fun stuff. Then I came back to live here in Sorel, and I was actually really studying a lot of electronics in Cégep. And it always something, and then the DJing stuff, I always used to like build up my own lights myself too, my little console with dimmers and stuff at the basement at home. So I always had like I guess you would say like something that was natural for me to do. And then here in Sorel, you saw him today. So I met this guy named Stéphane Belin, who had this little shop. And with not a lot of gear, but he had some speakers, amps, and consoles. So he showed me how to do it, and I started to do my friend's band, who like their first gigs. I used to be the guy, and then hooking it all up. So I did that, but then I didn't have any school, right? Because I was still in electronics, but nothing was even coming close. Being here in Sorel, being an industrial city, the electronics was more based towards like robots and whatever, not towards the electronics of audio or whatever. So I ended up going to a Musique Technique. Ended up paying a large amount of money, and then went. That
was in Montreal.
Yeah, it was in Montreal. It still is, I think. Yeah, it still exists. Yes. And so I went there.
What year was this?
I believe it's 95.
95.
Yeah.
Okay. How old are you now?
I just turned 46.
46.
Yeah. So so I started, but because I had that Steph music background where I used to go and do some live shows in Cabane à Sucre or little bars and stuff like that. I picked up some work during the summer at the Montreal Jazz Festival.
Oh, okay.
So then
doing what?
Doing just a stagehand, just being on the stage, plugging microphones, doing changeovers for bands and stuff like that. While I was at Musique Technique, is a great school for learning how to do post-production or commercial or computer music or whatever, but they never really went into the live part of the business.
Okay.
But that's where I came from, and I liked it. So I guess they gave me the opportunities, though. That's the thing. They had the contacts, they had the job opportunities. Like a lot of like a jazz festival would need like some interns or whatever to help during the summer or whatever. So they would go into different those schools, and then they would we'd go there for free. But then it was a great experience. But then when I went to the Jazz Fest, I did it a couple of years in a row, Jazz Festival, Francophonie, but because I was ahead of a lot of people being on the stage and doing what I was doing, they hired me back. So by that time also I did a little gig. It was a TV gig at TVA. It was for I think it's Politiquement Colette, it was called.
Oh, yeah.
With Pierre Brassard dressed as a woman doing interviews or whatever. It's pretty weird. But then it was my first time, going into the TV business. Again, setting up speakers, passing wires or whatever.
Were you on the union?
No, not at all. Not at all.
How did that happen?
It was just I was a stagiaire. How do you say that in English?
I never knew the French word, the English word for stagiaire. But
So you're just, I was just there as a,
it's like a trainee
or whatever. Yeah. So I did that, and then at that place, because now you hear from Sorel to Montreal, getting into the big leagues. I saw some soundmans, that were doing they were doing the sound for basically the studio, I guess for the crowd or whatever. They were from Solotech. Solotech was a provider. So then I slowly, asked them, do you think I could have a job at Solotech? And then I gave my name. And the funny anecdote about that is I went there, and I remember, being from, you're talking about like in the 90s and stuff like that, show business, people with long hair and, so I had, I guess, blonde dreads in my, and it was funny because, it was fine. And I was working, I was doing my stuff, and DJing also on the side too. And, when I asked the guy, he goes, "Oh, just go and bring your resume to Solotech and do this, do that." And then I never got any words back, right? And then about 3 weeks after, I asked the same guy, and then what's happening? You think? He was reluctant. He was saying, "Well, maybe if you cut your hair," and I'm like, "Are you serious?" And I thought it was rock and roll, but you know what? I did, and then the next day, Solotech called me, and then they hired me for the summer. And in 96, 97, me driving my old Chevette or another car with full of Bondo on it, and because I hated doing the Bondo, so I ended up just leaving it on, and I didn't care. And I ended up being in a parking lot at Solotech Bondoing speakers to make outside. I'm like, "Are you serious?" And then I get a call from the not just for laughs, but the Festival de Jazz Fest, and they're asking me, "Can you come back for the third year? We'd like you to be on the crew, and then we'll do it's a 2 weeks of jazz." And the schedule was changed, and they did back to back the Francophonie, so it was a whole month. So I ended up, here I am just being hired by Solotech, sandblasting and doing paint job in the parking lot outside. And I have the jazz calling me to be back on stage and doing the work that I like. So I went up and saw my boss, and I asked him, I says, "Do you think I could have a month off?" And he's like, "We just hired you. And then we hired you for the summer, and you're asking for a month off. What's going on?" I'm like, "Well, there's one problem. I am here, painting some speakers out in a parking lot, and I have the Jazz Fest asking me to be a technician, which I studied for to be on stage." And then the guy said to me, he goes, "Oh, You mean you know the way around a stage and stuff like that. So comes to they never read the resume, right? They just it was just like, oh, here's a guy who wants to, and then, so he asked me, he goes, okay, well, I didn't know that, so how about because they were looking for a guy, a representative of the Solotech, because they were everywhere. So Solotech was, supplying the whole Jazz Fest. So he goes, why don't you become the Solotech guy on the Jazz Fest then? I said, well, that would be fun. So I would see, it would be fun to me to say, like, I didn't want to say no to these people who gave me my first chance.
Yeah.
But at the same time saying that, you know what, I'll be there, but for Solotech, and I'll do the gig with you guys. So that went really smooth. And so that's basically how I started, in the Solotech thing.
Cool.
Yeah. And then after that became the tours and stuff like that because Solotech had tours. So you want to go on the first tour, I think it was Ginette Renault across Quebec. And then 2 years after, like, my first major tour was Céline.
Wow.
Just because it happened. It could have been anything.
Was that only in Canada? Or
that was in Europe. That was
Europe.
Yeah,
oh.
that was a weird tour because it's the first time doing the big tour up and around. Like, they had been touring for a long time with the same crew, but they were doing like arena shows. And then she was starting to grow. That's before Vegas and everything.
Yeah. And
she was starting to grow and grow and grow. And now they were doing like big soccer stadium in Europe. And so they needed, and that's when they first had the central stage. So the difference between the arena and the central stage, then it's twice the speakers because you're in around, and twice the lights and twice everything. So they needed more people on the crew. That's how I got my chance. And that was also the year that René had the first cancer. So there's some of those tours dates that we never did because she came back. But that was actually the break, one of the big breaks that I got. Being at the right place at the right time, I guess I can say it was like that. Yeah.
And what do you say? I mean, if you had to go back there, sanding those speakers in the parking lot.
Yeah.
Let's say you had the opportunity to talk to yourself at that time. Would you say, like, speak up, go tell people what you really do, or just wait for your chance? Or how do you see that?
I think I would have waited for my chance because I was. I think the way I saw it, I guess, was it was hard just to make it there, just to put your foot in that door.
So you got to watch your attitude.
You got to watch it. Yeah, exactly. But at the same time, I've seen a lot of people going in and out of different shops, and the reason is like they weren't at the right place, or the shop didn't give them the opportunity. I mean, one of the things I found, which is pretty sad, and there's a guy who he goes into the shop. He's in charge, I guess, of a department, and he's doing a super good job at what he's been placed to do. But that's not what he want to do. He likes to do some shows. He'd like to do some tours. But then being, I guess, a boss at that company, you're having a good guy. He's running the department good. So what are you going to do?
That's a problem.
Are you going to send him on the road and lose? Yeah. So then, but at the end, you end up
losing. If the guy's not happy, and I've been in that situation. I was shop manager at one time. I hated the job. Yeah. But apparently I did it well.
Exactly.
That was a problem.
Yeah. So then you're stuck there. They don't want to. Yeah. I've had people asking me to manage stuff. It's not my forte. I never liked it. So I never said yes to that. I never, no. And I've had jobs opportunity back in the days where, I would have had like a quote job security. But I let it go because I was, it would be like between four walls.
There's a price to that.
Yes.
There's a big price to pay for job security.
Yeah.
First question, and I got to talk, I got to speak out about this. First thing you need to ask yourself, I understand that, some people have mouths to feed and all that, but I mean, before going into job security, ask yourself if this is what you want to do.
Exactly.
I mean, you're going to spend way too much time at work to be doing something you don't like.
Yeah.
That's my philosophy.
Oh, it's...
Yeah. And I guess it's the philosophy of pretty much everybody in our domain, right?
Yeah.
We're doing what we love, and there's a certain freedom to that.
Yeah. And then what we love, you gotta love it too, because at the same time, I mean, it's, like I heard on the other, I think it's like a week ago, they were talking about, the quote again, the normal people having jobs 9 to 5, talking about, would you be willing to work 4 days instead of 5 and have 3-day weekends, but then your days would be, instead of 8-hour days, would be 10-hour days, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of people, I guess it was like an open mic somewhere or something, and a lot of people were talking about, well, no, 10 hours, and then I cannot think of a job that never went under 10 hours.
Well, yeah.
You know what I mean? In our field. So
Yeah.
the love has to be there because they're long hours. But then the thing is, like the opportunity is, here I am at home on a Monday afternoon. I'm not working. That's because I did 14 hours on Saturday, I guess.
Well, yeah. Yeah. And there's one thing, at a certain point, I don't know, I guess when when you're working for television, you are paid by the hour or something.
You got minimum hours.
Yeah.
So the bonus is if you got a setup day, or basically you usually are on setup day, because the actual show actually is really more often than enough more than 10 hours, right? So, but you get minimum hours. So I get called for something, it's 10 hours guaranteed, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So you work 8, then you got a 2-hour bonus, right? You're paid 10. If you work 12, then you paid 10 plus a 2-hour overtime fee. You get overtime on that. Yeah.
Yeah, because I remember when we were touring, and just for fun, I calculated. I said, okay, so I'm making, I don't know, back then, we're making, what, $250 a day or something like that. And you say, well, $250 a day is not bad at the time.
If you think
it's pretty good money, but if you break it down by the hour,
it's
ridiculous money.
it's not even minimum wage. No, it doesn't.
It doesn't make sense. But then again, you gotta think of what you're doing in a day. What would I be doing if I was just doing a normal job? I'd be like doing 8 hours of something I don't mind doing but don't particularly like. Then maybe a couple of hours of traveling. And after that, I'd get home, and then I could do something I really like for a couple of hours.
Yeah.
And that's it. So being on the road, doing gigs, doing tours, all those hours were spent doing something I love.
Yeah.
Even the traveling hours. How much fun did we have traveling?
Oh, we did, yeah.
We have pictures. We have anecdotes. We have stories, man. We got that little Hawaiian girl on the dashboard.
Yep.
Come on.
Elvis, baby. I still have it somewhere in the shed, yeah.
Lung Hao. We named her. We gave her a name. We even made her a little toque and a scarf for winter.
When we were
driving.
Yeah. When we had when we had our own truck.
We had our own truck.
I call it the piece of shit truck.
The piece of shit truck, yeah. But it did the job. That was really cool.
Yeah.
So listen, we're talking about this, and we're all getting excited, like anybody at home would be excited about, I don't know, going to the basement and working on something, or doing something that you like, or playing guitar, or watching a football game or something. We're probably more excited than these people, and we're actually working.
Yeah.
So that is very, very important. So touring days. So then you said you worked with Céline Dion, and then I know you did Tragically Hip, right?
Yeah, that was a special tour in 2000. It was the Music at Work tour. It was something. It was pretty neat because it was during the time, I guess, the crew of the Hip. The rigging and the lighting were all from out west. I believe it was called West Sun, the company, or something like that.
Okay.
I think it was from Vancouver. I know these companies are all been bought and not exist anymore, right?
A lot of things have been worked around.
But it was one of those things where the sound company, I guess, and especially the sound guy from the Tragically Hip back in the day, you wanted to he heard about the Solo Tech company. He heard about the speakers we were using and the new technology. A lot were developing during that time, so he wanted to try it, I guess. So it was very small crew of Quebecers. It was me, François, and Colin. We were 3 people going, setting up the Tragically tour. It was I guess it was right after Céline. Using the equipment, in 2000 it must have been, because Céline was in 98, 99. Okay. So this tour, the Hip, were in an arena, just like a normal show, but they opened the backstage to people, I guess for cheaper. So they needed an in-around sound. So I guess the logic was, well, if Céline did it in around, we didn't use as many speakers, obviously, because we were back into a not a soccer field, but into an arena. But it was the same kind of principle. So it was cool because I was touring with, riggers from this company, light guys from another company. Mm-hmm. The sound guys were we were the Frenchmen from Quebec, and then we had the Hip, and I would say,
yeah, I've met many Frenchies.
Yeah.
Yeah. We all have the same nickname.
Yeah. So that I would believe, I did some touring for maybe, I would say, 5 years, Céline, André Rieu, the Hip, and I did a lot of theater stuff in the States and stuff like that. But, the Tragically Hip tour was one of the special ones. It was the one that, the band was fantastic. The people were the production was so cool. The touring was actually pretty neat, because
you were actually on the tour bus, right?
We were, there was 4 tour buses.
Yeah, that's what I figured.
Yeah. So we were there's a tour bus that's, the band. Yeah. And then the next 3 buses were technicians. So so we were really going. It started in it was a Vancouver pre-production, really being there for a week and a half, setting up the stuff, preparing it. Then on our way, across Canada, a couple of state, up north, Boston and I guess Chicago we did, and stuff like that. And then going across all the way to places I've never been, like Newfoundland and stuff like that. Yeah. And then, coming back to finish it back in Toronto around Christmas time on that. Yeah, it was, and it was the only tour that actually, the band, I've seen after, I guess, on the Juno Awards or something like that. I did after many years after that, band members still remembers your name and stuff like that.
That is amazing.
There were a bunch of great people. Like I said, it was, I guess, I've had fun in tours. I've had, hard times in tours and stuff like that. But this Tragically Hip tour is one of the sweet one that actually
Were you always on the bus, or was there hotel rooms when you got to cities?
There were. The way it would work is you don't have days all the time, right? It's not like one after the other. But let's say you have a place where you have 2 or 3 days in a row, then you step out the tour bus, you go into the hotel room. Okay. If you have sometimes you would go, let's say you're in this city, you hop on the tour bus, you go to the next city, but then you don't play until not the day after, Then you would go into a hotel. The one of the hard one I had was André Rieu's 3 weeks. It was 5 days in a row in 5 different cities. So it's in, out, in, out, in, out, in, out, in, out. Then 2 days off at the hotel. Then in, out, in, out, in, out. So
and those 2 days you spend them sleeping.
You spend them sleeping, and you spend them at the laundromat.
Yeah, that too.
Because you gotta wash your clothes.
That's another thing on tour people don't think about. It's you gotta live, and you can't carry shitloads of suitcases.
I used to. Yeah. I even when I do now, I go to I do the Olympics. I've done two so far, and some. So sometimes you'll be gone for. I know I'll be gone for 2 weeks. I got a 2 weeks kit. Basically, you got enough underwears, enough socks, enough t-shirts. Basically, they're all the same, and A special at Walmart. There you go. I'm buying that. So, but then, sometimes you would have, we would do the laundry. Some of the productions are pretty cool. The big ones, the Hip, Céline, you would have like a laundry bag. You put your name on it, and then drop that at the production office in the morning, and then pick it up at night. They get it done for you. You have no choice. I mean, but then sometimes it's fun to be in your own stuff. And
of course.
I've toured a lot of Europe. A lot of cities in Germany and stuff like that, and it's funny because people say, "Oh, it must be nice. You've seen a lot of tours." I could tell you that I've seen a lot of loading docks. I've seen a lot of dumpsters back at the the arena where the tour bus would park.
Yeah,
and the
we
trucks.
We know what the garbage smells like in every damn city in this world.
Actually, but the days off you would get. Yeah. They would pay for that hard work, just going into a city like Maastricht in Holland, walking around and just visiting because you have a day off. Then you kind of forget that you've been on the tour bus for 4 days straight. Yeah.
So you talked about hard times. What is there anything in particular you'd like to talk about? What was tough during all this?
Being away.
That was my next question. Yeah. How? With this kind of job, you have a family. You have a wife and you have a daughter.
Yeah.
How did all this affect your family life?
Well, to be honest, we know each other because I stopped touring. Mm-hmm. And the reason for that is because I had my daughter. I've had a lot of stories while I was in big tours of the older guys not seeing their family and getting divorced, and stuff like that. Yeah. When my daughter came into this world, I pulled a plug on the touring. That's where I guess that didn't make a lot of my boss back then happy because I've been trained and they
invested in you.
They invested, and I actually went and did a lot of work for them during that time. But then I wanted to be more at home and stuff like that. But they didn't give me good gigs, I guess, just to was it to piss me off, or was it just that's the gigs they had? Like some big companies, they only have that big tours, and then once you do their local work, they're sometimes very
there's not much there.
There's not much there. So that's how I went to a friend of mine was working for a production company that had a lot of comedians in Quebec. We have that opportunity to have like a big a lot of comedians and tours of comic tours. They last for a long time, right? So I ended up doing comics, and that's how I met you with a whole bunch of
and
comedians.
We toured for a few years together.
So
stand-up comics.
Yeah. So door tours are easy in Quebec because then you're at home during the week. You mostly work Thursday, Friday, Saturday nights. You're back, and then once a while you'll go to Gaspésie. You'll go up north.
You'll leave for a week.
You'll leave for a week, and then you're back. Not the end of the world. Yeah, exactly. That's how I stopped.
Oh, that's cool.
So the family, actually, I wanted to be home for that. That's for sure. But it is something that you got to think about. Now my daughter is older, and I kind of found myself being in the television business. That's where I get to go. That's where I get to go longer. But then it's the thing is too. I mean, I remember doing the Céline, and we would line up with our calling cards. With our special numbers, so it wouldn't, and then we would just phone call because we didn't have any internet was like that I can't make.
Internet was not very accessible.
It was just emails. It was
and
just
even cellular phones were very, very expensive at the time.
Yeah,
I think your dog's hungry because
that's fine. She'll live.
I'm petting a dog, a big dog right here, right next to me. I feel like I'm at home petting my own dog.
Yeah, so obviously now it's changed. I mean, one of the first time that I left for a month, which since the touring business was in 2012, where I went to London for the Olympics. That's when my daughter got her first iPod that I bought her, and then I had my iPhone, and then we actually had it was Star Trek back then because we had we could see each other and talk to each other with the video and
all
stuff.
That stuff wasn't even science fiction when I was in school.
Yeah. So that changed a lot of way now that you I guess you could tour because you could see. I could, you FaceTime and then so that didn't exist, and that's why I pulled the plug on the touring.
Mm-hmm.
And I liked it, but at the same time, nothing happens for nothing, and I'm glad I did.
Well, yeah. Well, it's nice that you did it when it was time to do it.
Yeah, I guess so.
And I guess there's a bunch of guys out there, the new generation, who would like to hop on a tour and see what all that's about.
It is fun. I mean,
Yeah.
it's memorable. I mean, it's hard work. It's this and that, but I gotta say, I would do it again.
Of course. And everybody, I don't even ask this question anymore because it's like, okay, if you had to do it over, would you do it differently? And I always get the same answer, not really.
No, exactly.
But there's one thing I do like to ask everybody, is I'd like you to tell me if you have any advice you'd like to give to guys out there coming out of school, guys and girls. There's a lot more and more girls out there coming out of school or just starting in the business, and they'd like to hop on a tour like this. What kind of advice could you
I
give
always
these
give
people?
the same advice. I mean, there's a lot of there's two things, right? There's skills that people have, and there's attitudes that people have, and the way you're looking at things, attitude goes a long way. It goes, I think, even further than skills in some places. So my advice is, I mean, I did start sending those speaker box in the parking lot, but I had the opportunity to pull myself out of that with a great attitude. I didn't bitch about it. I didn't, and
start by doing what they ask you to do. Start by doing that well, and then look out for opportunities. But don't start bitching before you even do anything, because nobody has the occasion to see what you're capable of.
Exactly. And the thing is, too, is I find that nowadays it is long and hard in school. It is expensive in school. And it's not true that because you go to school in a particular field of work that you have a promised job, you know.
Of course.
And once you get into that job field, you'll be at the bottom of the ladder, that's for sure. So, and my advice is, if you really like what you're doing, it takes time, and it at the same time, listen and look and take the advice of the other people. Sometimes you don't know everything, you know what I mean? And
pretty often, I say.
Well, I still, we're
still learning.
I'm learning all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, I go into new trucks and I have no problems saying to say you don't know instead of pretending. You'll look a lot smarter at the end.
Oh yeah, for sure. I remember one time I was rigging a truss. I'm not sure I told this story before. There was this. I call this a little girl because it was literally a little girl, although she was obviously major. And I asked her, okay, can you crank the chain block? And then I walk away, I go do something else, and when I come back, she's looking at the chain block. And I say, okay, is there a problem? She says, yeah, I don't know how to do it. I said, oh, cool. I'm glad you're telling me.
Yeah. I like that. Yeah. Especially when something that goes over your head, right? And that could fall.
Yeah. I'm so glad you're telling me this. Yeah. So I'll gladly show you how to do it.
Exactly.
Not a problem.
Yeah, exactly.
I would have preferred you tell me when I asked you to do it, though.
No, that's for sure. But still.
Hey, Eric, I think it's about time to wrap this up.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Pleasure.
And I'm drinking to your health and to your past, present, and future.
Well, let's do this again sometimes.
Absolutely, anytime, my friend.
All right.
Have a nice day. Have a nice working life, and take care.
All right.
All right. Special thanks to AVL Media Group and Avo Lights, who make, in my opinion, the best lighting consoles in the world. If you would like to test drive an Avo Lights lighting console, or if you would simply like to get free training, you can contact me via BackstageCowboys.com. I answer to every email in person almost instantly, unless I'm on a plane or in the shower.
All right. Hey, cue the music.